What we're going to do now is design a spherical rigid contact lens for this particular patient. If you look at the axial power map here for this patient, you can see in the bottom left for the SIM-Ks we got about a diopter with the rule of astigmatism. So I should be able to get a pretty good GP fit on this particular cornea. The way that you do this is to select the map that you want, then click this little green button that looks sort of like a contact lens, and it says create a new contact lens. I get to choose the type of lens that I want. If I had keratoconus, I might choose Rose K or something like that. We're going to go with a custom 3-curve lens, which is similar to the star lens that we have in our kits. I can put the patient's prescription in here as well. Oops. I'm going to type, there we go, 180, for example. And I can even put in the vertex distance if I want to. And then click OK. Now here is the contact lens that it designed for me initially. I want to go with a bigger diameter. This is 9.0, so let's change that to 9.8 and click Apply. And then what we can do is look at the way the lens fits on the cornea over here. It's decentered just a little bit, so I'm going to drag it over to the side. And I've got this little white bar that tells me the cross section of the cornea that is showing up down in the bottom part of the map, which shows me the tear film thickness across the cornea. Now the default lens that it picked for me has got about 10 microns or a little less than that of clearance in the center part of the cornea. And as I move out to the periphery, I can see that it gets thinner until I get touch at about 3.5 to 4 millimeters out. Now that makes sense because if you look up here, it says the optic zone size is 7.8 millimeters. So that means that if it's a little steeper than the cornea, it should be touching at the edge of the optic zone, at least for that meridian. Now personally, I like a little bit more tear film clearance in the center of the cornea than about less than 10 microns here. So I'm going to go to my optic zone radius, which is the same as base curve, and click the arrow down to select one step steeper. I'll click Apply. And you can see now that the center tear film was about 20 microns, which is pretty good. And I've still got that bite at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock, which prevents the lens from sliding laterally. Now if I swing this bar around, I can look at the tear film in the vertical meridian. You can see the dotted line there represents the dotted line in the tear film graph. Now what's cool about this is I now have complete clearance all the way across the lens. There's no touch anywhere, which makes sense because I got a width through a cornea. That means this lens can slide up and down on the cornea all day long with very little friction. Okay, so in the horizontal meridian, I got a little bit of clearance in the center. I've got clearance in the center in the vertical and in the periphery, but not excessive amounts where I'd get a whole lot of rocking motion on the cornea. So it looks pretty good. So I'm going to go with this base curve. I think that's fine. So let's click OK. Now if I look at my lens parameters over here, it tells me what lens power I need to order for the patient. We must have hit pretty close to on K in order to get pretty much the same power here. It tells me how much residual astigmatism I should expect, all that kind of stuff. It's pretty cool. And then if I change my mind and want to change something about this, I can just click this Modify button, and that takes me back to my lens designing tab. Okay, so that's all there is to it. Depending on how much cylinder you have, of course, your configuration is going to look a little different. But for the most part, that's all there is to it. You just click the green button, add a new lens, and when you're done, you click the Save button so you can save your changes. Okay, and that's pretty much it. Medmont makes it pretty easy to design contact lenses for patients, and hopefully this has helped you kind of see how that process goes.